If you have a Synology NAS, especially one exposed to the internet, you need to make sure to update a fair amount of packages as soon as possible, as well as an OS update. There have been multiple security vulnerabilities found and now patched in Synology DSM, as well as their packages from the Pwn2Own competition that are getting their fixes. I have not seen anything online about anybody actually having these vulnerabilities exploited, but most of them have been patched and fixed, so you need to make sure to update your NAS as soon as possible. Okay, so if you're not sure what a CVE is, a CVE is a vulnerability or a possible vulnerability found in software. And good software providers publish the CVEs, not necessarily how to exploit them, but their status, and they track them. And it's actually something I do because I manage a lot of Synology NASs for businesses, is about once a week I log in here, and I'll leave a link down in the description below to this page that goes through and lists out Synology's status on vulnerabilities. And vulnerabilities are categorized based off their severity, and critical is very high, as well as their status. So ones that are resolved means that there is a patch out. Ongoing may mean that there's a patch out for some, but not all, or it's still being researched. And if we look right here, Pwn2Own 2024 discovered a ton of vulnerabilities, and they were reported to Synology. So there's actually an entire bounty program that you can do to actually make money if you do find vulnerabilities like this, because Synology would much rather pay you to find vulnerability than have it be exploited. So Pwn2Own 2024 found multiple CVEs within Synology DSM, and the majority of them have been patched. And for people running the most up-to-date version of DSM 7.2, they are all have patches already out. And these vulnerabilities actually exist across both packages, Synology Photos, Drive, and Snapshot Replication, as well as DSM. And the ones that are listed as critical here could actually allow an attacker to do the worst thing possible for a software provider, and that is to execute arbitrary code. So these are ones you need to patch immediately, and if you look, they are actually going through and allowing and creating patches for previous versions of the software. So right now Synology Photos is on 1.7, but they've issued a patch for both 1.7 as well as for 1.6. And all of these packages are set up where if you've got critical updates on for auto update, that I'll show in a minute here, should have already been updated, but we want to make sure to go ahead and check. So these right here are a number of severe vulnerabilities, with the two highest ones in my opinion being Synology Photos and DSM, both of which are critical, as well as on packages that are often exposed to the internet. Once again, I've not heard of anybody actually exploiting these in the wild, but you want to make sure to update as soon as possible. So for those, what you do is we're going to go ahead and log in here, and first make sure that we have updated our packages. I've already gone through and updated all my clients who have these packages and are all up to date, but make sure to first come into the package center, go into the install tab, and specifically make sure that the three applications, Synology Photos, Synology Drive, and Snapshot Replication or Replication Service, are fully up to date. So make sure to update those. And if you do have the settings here for auto update and auto update to important versions of all packages, which is what I recommend most people do and is now just the default whenever you install DSM, it will have already updated these for the vast majority of people. For the Photos one, it was already patched and fully updated on all the units that I got into, so it had automatically done the update. But for the Synology Drive one, because that is more of a critical service, I had a couple of units that I had to do it myself outside of business hours. So make sure that is checked because that helps protect you from having to do this yourself. And make sure you are running the secure versions of each of these. And you can come in and just see which version it is by looking at the installed version right here and comparing it against the actual one. So if this was Synology Photos, you would see you need to have at least this update or above, or this update if you're running 1.6. Once again, I will be leaving links down in the description below to all these things. The other thing that they have done is there is also a DSM vulnerability, which is a very big deal. And so right here, we can look through that if you're running DSM 7.2.2, there is already a fix. So for one, you should be able to come to the control panel, package center, and if you look, I'm running 7.2.2.2, And there is already this update 1 that does in fact have the fix. So this is where I will go ahead and make sure to download this as soon as possible. If your NAS is not directly exposed to the internet and you're only using like OpenVPN server, not as big of a deal to do ASAP. But if you're using Quick Connect, or especially with port forwarding and you've got your entire NAS exposed, recommend doing this as soon as possible. Okay, so that works great for people who are running DSM 7.2.2. It's just going to show up in your download center right here, and you can just hit update now on it, and it will go ahead and do the automatic update. Now, let's talk about people who are running DSM 7.2.1 or 7.1. Right here, this is actually ongoing. They have actually published a fix on update 6, so I believe that should be fine. But I want to show you how you would find it if you wanted to stay on that DSM 7.2.1 update train, or you want to stay on DSM 7.1. Because this does allow you to still keep your versions and all your packages exactly as they are on 7.2.1, but just get the vulnerability fixed. And to do that, what you do is you open up and go into the Synology Download Center. And I actually think the patch for 7.2.1 update 6 is on there. They just have not updated the CVE. This is an ongoing thing. But what you do is you come into the Download Center. I'll leave a link in the description below to this as well. And you would put in your number, your model number. Now we can choose what we'd like to download. So if we're on 7.1 or 7.2, then we would say, hey, I'm on 7.2.1 and I want to stay on 7.2.1. And you would be able to download update 6. So once again, update 5 is the only one with release notes so far on here. But I believe update 6 is the one that actually has the vulnerability fixed. Once again, this is in the middle of them pushing out an update very quickly. I've been able to update all my units. I keep everything fully up to date, and I've had no issues so far. But you would be able to download this update 6, assuming that's the one that fixes it. Hit download, and then on DSM, manually install that file. So to do that, you can come in here, go into update and restore, and hit manual DSM update, and upload this file manually. So that is the way that you can still stay on your older release trains. And the exact same process works with the applications as well. And so while this has not been exploited as far as I can tell, I would highly recommend updating as soon as possible. Especially if you've not updated in a long time and you've not logged in a while and checked on everything, I would highly recommend logging in and making sure everything is running well, and make sure that all your packages are fully up to date, especially the ones that are listed under these CVEs right here. As these are known vulnerabilities to packages and parts of the NAS that could be exploited. Now, Pwn2Own did not disclose how to actually do them, but they do say that it is surprisingly easy, and especially now that this has been published, people are going to start looking into the avenues, especially the code. So it's really important, even though this has not been exploited before, it's really important to update now, as now that people are aware that there might be something here and they can look at what's changed between versions. You really want to make sure you update as soon as possible to make sure that you do not get in trouble. This has been one of the largest CVE disclosures and updates I've seen Synology go through. They seem to have done it in a fairly timely manner, and hopefully nobody gets hacked. But this is one of those things to remember. It is very important to keep your NAS up to date and just aware, especially if you're somebody who has really critical files. Make sure you know about how your NAS is exposed to the internet and understand the risk profile with that. All right, well, that's going to be it for this. Go ahead and update all those packages as soon as possible. And if you have any other questions, put those down in the comments below. If you want to hire me, I do this professionally. There's a link for that down in the description below as well. All right, have a good one. Bye.